Today is a great day. Today, we kill orcs.
Howdy, howdy. Silver here, and welcome to an amazing game between the Dwarfs and the Skaven. It is between two dwarf mains, Amovehacker and eumaies. And eumaies, you know from one of my videos I've done before, has an amazing online guide for the Dowee. And they have a game here which you have to see. It is absolutely fantastic. Now, this is rare you get to see these types of games where two high-level players test ideas against each other. And this is one of those ideas. And right now, Skaven are sort of really front and center as something the Dwarfs are discussing. And Amove asked eumaies to bring the most abusive Skaven army he could think of, and this is what he brought. So of course he has the Natty Boobo sharpshooters. They're Warplock Jezzails. They have 300 range. They also have shield breaker, so all the dwarven shields won't matter, and they are armor piercing, and they have an amazing aim. And oh, by the way, they have snipe and stalk, so you can't see them. They can shoot non-stop without even being discovered. Oh yeah, and if you do get in range, they are shielded with a silver shield, and they have 70 armor. So they're pretty solid. Along with them, he brought, hidden in the woods, 3 groups of just regular Warplock Jezzails. And they have the same shield breaker, and they have armor piercing. They're just not quite as good, but they have a silver shield, and they do have 300 range. Very solid. For his backline, because why would Warplock Jezzails be enough, he has brought Doomflayers, which they are not as bad as they were, but they are still pretty rough. And he has a Dwarf Thing Menace, which does have 30 sundered armor for 10 seconds when attacking. It is anti-infantry with a bonus of 26, which is massive, and armor piercing. And he does have another, I think he has another Doomflayer. Yep, right here, 2 Doomflayers. He has Ikit Claw on a Doomflayer, and Ikit Claw also has unlimited power for the recharge rate and power reserves for the magic. Brass Orb, I think this is a Bound Vortex. Death Frenzy, which is a spell plus 26 melee attack, plus 25% weapon damage, and immune to psychology for 28 seconds. Very cheap. Howling Warp Gale, which will stop a flying unit for 14 seconds for use against gyrocopters, obviously. Warp Lightning, which is cheap but effective, 5 winds of magic. And here's the big one. Every time he casts for 8 seconds, Musketeer map-wide, -4 leadership, -13 melee attack to the enemy, which is ridiculous. And of course, he has 72 speed and 110 armor on that mount, by the way. Also, behind that, he just, for good measure, brought some Rat Ogres for some good old-fashioned ground and pound. For another part of his leadership, he does have a Warlock Engineer who has Warp Lightning. He also has Warpstone armor that's constant around himself. When he's in melee, it causes damage to combatants. It's like a Mortis engine. And just chaff for the rest. We have some Skaven slaves. We have some Skaven slave slingers. I think we have some clan rats up here. And that's about it. Now, what would you want to bring against this? You know, what would be useful against these Jezzails and against some of this stuff? So this is the build. It is a very heavy artillery build, and I think the feature piece of artillery here is this organ gun. Now, organ guns are a powerful unit. They have just enough range, 300 range, to exchange with those sharpshooters, and they do a ton of damage. They are armor piercing. The shields aren't going to matter, and they can really put the damage down. Now, he also has 2 bolt throwers. Now, we know the bolt throwers from our testing are solid. 2 bolt throwers versus 1 Jezzail can get the job done. They have slightly more range at 340, and they are armor piercing. They're anti-large, which doesn't really matter, but they're useful against other things like Doom Wheels and Rat Ogres with their anti-large. And last but not least, has a cannon for that extra range, 440 range, and they again are anti-large armor piercing. They are very good against those big Skaven entities. If they do bring one of those priests on a bell, or they bring one of those weird monsters, whatever it is the Skaven bring, they have some stuff that are pretty big. But cannons are really good because they have that extra range, so you can't get out of the way, you can't route out of the way, and they do a ton of damage. Now, for his front line, he's had to... oh, and also 2 gyrocopters with brimstone guns for the armor piercing and anti-large to really track down things. Now, when you have this much artillery, you can't spend a whole lot. So the army is pretty small and it's nice and tight. He has 2 dwarf warriors. Out front, though, he was able to bring the Norgrimling's Ironbreakers to make sure nothing gets through. Norgrimling's Ironbreakers are very, very strong, and nothing will get through them. And behind them, he has the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass, who have anti-infantry and do fire damage, which isn't going to matter. But that anti-infantry bonus, I think, of 6, of 6, is going to matter with all the chaff. For the backline, we know the Longbeards with great weapons are very solid anti-large. They're sort of like a dwarven version of spearmen, if you will. They're not good in the front line, but they're excellent in the backline, and they're pretty good at mucking up Doomflayers. And last but not least, he does have the Dragonback Slayers. So the Dragonback Slayers are awesome. They slow things down, and they're really, really good. And for his leadership, he has a Rune Lord. Now, interesting, he brought the Rune Lord with of course, the Master Rune of Wrath and Rune to do some damage to slow things down, but he also brought it with the Rune of Negation. I know a lot of you really like that Rune of Negation, and are always saying, hey, Stu Devil, bring the Rune of Negation, it's really good. Well, this is a really good idea, because look at what it's going to hit. Really, that Rune of Negation is really trying to defend this artillery, and for when it gets shot. So we're going to press play and watch how this rolls out. Now, really... Amove just wants to get his gyrocopters up and to start looking, and of course Eumaies wants to get his Natty Boobos into position where he can take free shots. He also wants to bring Ikit Claw up because he does have that Howling Workgale. Already you hear the cannons going off. Yeah, it's against Skaven slaves and slave singers, but who cares? It's hard to get all your ammo off in a battle anyway, so get some things going. So he's got some aimed at Ikit Claw, which will be his cannons, and he is bringing in his gyrocopter in here, and now I think he notices that he has Howling Warp Gale, so he's probably trying to get out of the way, and here comes the Natty Boobos. Now, they are still unseen, and they're going to start going after the organ gun. Now, you can ground target. There's a game from eumaies, it doesn't work anymore, but you can ground target with your artillery there. Now he sees them, and now it is time to aim everything at those Natty Boobos sharpshooters and to start putting some damage in them. He does get Howling Warp Gale. Eumaies wants to bring in these Warplock Jezzails and really knock down the gyrocopter here. But unfortunately his Natty Boobos were shot, and this is not going to last quite long enough for them all to get there. All in range now, and they're going to do some damage, but it's not quite long enough. They're going to get some done, but not everything done. Meanwhile, this artillery is positioned just to make sure it's in range to shoot at things, and he's trying to get his gyrocopters out of the way. Ikit Claw's coming in, just looking for a few targets, and he's also got his Skaven Slave Singers, and is starting to bring up his flank attack, where we've got those Dwarf Thing Menace, some Rat Ogres, and the other Doomflayers. You can see the shots are coming in hard right now for the gyrocopter. You know, you rest 1 second, you make one small micro mistake, and there it is. You know, half your health is just gone. Okay, he's going to try and dodge that spell. This is a beautiful dodge by a dwarf. Dwarfs aren't exactly fast, but he does try to dodge it. So good job, Amove. I was cheering for that when I heard it coming down. In comes the Rune Lord. He's just going to be ready to cast that, and over comes the gyrocopter. Right now, I'm going to hit this Dwarf Thing Menace. I'm going to try and stay out of range of these guys, and these are all shooting at the organ guns. The organ guns are trying to shoot back. You can see everything's focused in on these Warplock Jezzails, and you can see the shots coming in. They're going to start to get a ton of damage over here, and he's trying to move into a better position with his Warplock Jezzails, but you can see the artillery pressure is really significant because these guys are not terribly fast, and here comes the organ guns. The organ guns do a ton of damage against these guys. It's actually a really, really beautiful choice, something I never would have thought of, and it's so strong already. Warplock Jezzails gone. Okay, we got 2 more. We're going to change the aim, and they're going to try and shoot back at those organ guns, obviously because the organ guns are so powerful, and in comes the shots to the second group of Warplock Jezzails, and he's going to keep trying with the spells. Now, everything else for the Skaven is starting to come in, but really the key here is to keep this organ gun online, keep things shooting those Warplock Jezzails. And over here, now things are coming in. These Longbeards with great weapons clumped up like that, they have charge defense against large, and we did see in our testing they're way better at standing up now that these Doomflayers have a lot less mass. The Rat Ogres are going to do a pretty good job on them. Already the Bolt Thrower is off and he's probably just going to pull it out. But we've got these Dragonback Slayers in. They're going to come after the Doom Flayers. They're going to come after the Rat Ogres. They're going to do a number on them. And we got the Dwarfling Menace, and we just have the Gyrocopter with Brimstone guns shooting at that Dwarfling Menace. The other Gyrocopters are up here just getting free shots. And we got the Rat Ogres fighting against Longbeards, and the Bolt Thrower is kind of getting a little bit beat up, but it's not on top of the excuse me, not on top of its unit anymore. So these Dragonback Slayers are getting a ton of work done. The Organ Gun is off. The Warriors of Dragonfire Pass again are just trying to protect these pockets. Eumaies has some troops coming around, trying to hook back in, and they're just keeping a very tight Dwarven formation. Boom, boom, trying to make sure these things can keep on firing. And you can see again, these guys have routed. Now these guys are almost ready to rout. They're trying to shoot back in there. You can see we're still shooting up against these Warplock Jezzails, and one shot after another, just continuously wearing them down with the ranged. And now these Natty Boobos come out again, and now they can be seen. And this is actually a really clever little deployment. I never really talked about it, but you can see there's a hill here, which is actually a little more difficult to get things to arc over that hill if you look like that. Can shoot out, but it's hard for them to shoot in. It's actually a pretty clever way to deploy. You're not always going to get a hill like that though. So anyways, we've got Skaven Slave Spears here. We do have the Rune Lord fighting them. We do have the Longbeards with great weapons. We do have the Dragonback Slayers back in here fighting, and the Bolt Thrower is now back on his artillery, and we've got the Longbeards with great weapons are pushed these guys off. Both of the Gyrocopters are almost out of ammo. They have been shooting pretty steady on these the Doom Flayers. The line's starting to get pulled apart a little bit. This is really difficult to deal with, and you can see really we've got this Bolt Thrower that's starting to get hit by these Skaven Slaves, and then we got Clan Rats coming in the back. This is, you know, really it's an impossible task. You can't defend everything when you have a smaller army. So Amove is doing the very best he can. Meanwhile, he's got his Norglings out here onto these Natty Boobos, and he's shooting his blasting charges up here, trying to reduce their health. They're getting beat on by this Warlock Engineer. Here you get charged in the back by Icket Claw and Dwarfling Menace. We do have our Dwarf Warriors and our Dragonback Slayers out here. They're all fighting like crazy. These guys have routed. These guys are still shooting, but you can see they have so much less. They have like 7 out of 24 and 10 out of 24, so 17. So they're still they're actually just at 24 for 2 units. Now they're still shooting in here. They do tons of damage. You can see them doing it, but they've taken a lot in return, and they're very, very close to routing. So in comes another shot from one of the dwarf artillery pieces. I think that's the cannon. Yep. And you can see it does a ton of damage. We're down to 6 models here. Wavering. We've got the Bolt Thrower has just come online. It's going to have some shots coming in here right away. And you can see, here we go. These guys, these Warplock Jezzails have routed. And these Warplock Jezzails, they have 10 models left. You're going to see if they're going to get a rout. They're trying to shoot in here. Here comes another shot.
I smell failure.
They're trying to counter battery against the cannon and against the artillery, and they're doing a very good job at it. But really, this has been the fight within the fight, is to keep the artillery going against these Warplock Jezzails. You know, they're down to 10 models. Just need 1 more shot, 2 more shots, and they're going to rout. We've got the Dwarf Warriors taking apart these Skaven Slaves and going after these Natty Boobos. We also have the Norgleman's Ironbreakers. We're down to 3 models, 32 health, and they have not routed. Fantastic. And they've gone to the last. Look at that, brave Dowie. I'm going to take your bones home, son. Don't worry. These guys have been just absolutely fantastic. The Warplock Jezzails are still shooting. There's a fight still going on in here because we have some Rat Ogres, we have some Skaven Slave Spears, and they're trying to get in and keep the cannons and everything down. So these cannons are offline again, trying to reset his line. Boom, 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 and then he can get these cannons ongoing and get another one on here. And meanwhile, pushing out these Dragonback Slayers and these Dwarf Warriors. Dwarf Warriors will beat the crap out of anything that's out here. Same with the Dragonback Slayers. And really, he's just trying to manage this pocket, and then he'll be able to get this organ gun is still here, and get the organ gun back online. He's pushed everything out. Now the Gyrocopters, Brimstone guns are out of ammo, but you can see they can still charge and they can still escort things off. So this is the beauty. So he sees, okay, I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to look at what can I actually escort off the field. We've got some Clan Rats and Clan Rats with shields coming back in. The Dwarves of Dragonfire Pass will handle them no problem, but unfortunately they're trying to come in and get the organ gun and finish off what's left of it. And again, Amove is just trying to consolidate into this pocket and create some sort of defensive line that he can manage, and maybe he can get these organ guns back on. The Dwarf Warriors and Dragonback Slayers have pushed off most of what's out here, but we still have this Warlock Engineer out here and looking for a place to put his gyrocopter with brimstone guns, because he has nothing to do with it right now. Really trying to focus down these rat ogres and clan rats and Ikit Claw, and here comes another spell. It doesn't do a ton of damage, but it's constant, and it causes that minus 13 melee attack. Really, really big deal. Like Longbeards, you can see where they got melee attack 22. Dwarf Warriors, Longbeards. Oh, that seems normal. Maybe it's just a few seconds. But anyways, here we go. Beautiful use of the gyrocopter with brimstone guns, rear charge. You can see it's going to tank the leadership of those guys, and they're going to instantly want to rout. This is a wonderful way to rear charge with the Dowie. You can see way back here, still pushing things out, making sure they go off. I mean, that's 3 Dragonback Slayers. They're doing the job, and we got 15 Dwarf Warriors. That's Dowie leadership right there, boys. And we got here, Dwarf Warriors are doing just fine against the Clan Rats, and really this pocket is actually rather strong. Routed these Rat Ogres, routed these Skaven Slaves, and now the Gyrocopter with Brimstone Guns going to have to look for a new thing to hit. We have a 44% damage resistance, which is going to help the Longbeards with great weapons against Ikit Claw. Again, they are the Dowie version of spears or polearms. They are anti-large, so he's trying to, again, consolidate here and deal with Ikit Claw. He's bringing in the Gyrocopters with Brimstone Guns, and they do well in a rear charge, and they also can stop these Doomflayers if they do get in front. So he's just looking for good spots to put all his troops, and really to finish the job. Really, that's the focus. Just finish the job, get these guys gone, get this guy gone. Now he's got his gyrocopter. Again, just finish the job. Oh, nice dodge there. Oh my god, did you see that? This is beautiful. He just finish the job. Get his gyrocopters to go after the Warplock Jezzails, and you'll see. I'll try and see so you can see the battle, but here's the beauty. The guys cannot go anywhere, and you can see their leadership is already tanking, -1, and shattered. Beautiful. Now he can just pick something else and go after it next. In this main bit, really, the Natty Bubo sharpshooters can't do anything against Longbeards with great weapons, but Ikit Claw can still get some work done, and you see him just going from place to place. Now, these guys do have charge defense against large, but you can see he has 2364, and this is the problem with chariots and stuff like that. 2364, he's going to go through. I have Dwarf Warriors. There's Dwarf Warriors all around. He still has 2364. They're just not hitting him, and he's killing models. So this is one of the problems with chariots. It's really hard to hit him. 2364 still, and he's just going to fly right by and go to try and get rid of these Longbeards with great weapons. So you can see here the Gyrocopter Brimstone Guns, just really looking for targets, trying to figure out what to do. He's going after the Warlock Engineer. Now he sees the Natty Bubos, so he's going to try and rear charge them. The action is still going on up here. I mean, this is really, really close up here, but he's got the Gyrocopter with Brimstone Guns. Here's the beautiful use of them. Just going to come in here, land, and start fighting. These guys have they actually have pretty good melee defense at 32. That's surprising. They don't have a whole lot of armor-piercing melee attack, I would imagine. But anyways, here you go. The Warlock Engineer has now been routed. All the Longbeards with great weapons have been routed. He's coming in again, trying to get another charge. And you can see, you know, he's just going through, but he can't go through these Longbeards like they used to. That mass has made a real difference, you know. And you can see, we've got our Rune Lord in there. We've got our Longbeards with great weapons. And we got that stinking... God, I hate that animation. It drives me nuts. Well, I mean, it's a fair animation, but... you know, as a dwarf, seeing your dwarfs go flying, it hurts my soul. Great game, and really, the thing that I think the message that our Dowie kin here, Amovehacker and eumaies want to send is that this matchup is not hopeless for the Dowie, and obviously the Doomflayers are still strong. They're not as bad as they once were, but they're still very strong. And these Jezzails are still, these are the perfect anti-dwarf ranged units. They're freaking amazing. And the Natty Bubo sharpshooters are unreal. And, you know, this organ gun, I would definitely look at picking that up if you were setting up a build against the Skaven, specifically for Warplock Jezzails. It's good against anything, really. It'll do tons of damage against rat ogres and other things, but it is particularly good against these Jezzails. Now, they have to be in range on like the bolt throwers. Now, we did do some testing right away, and the bolt throwers are actually pretty decent against the Jezzails, but they're really need a sort of a 2-to-1 advantage for them to be super effective, where you have 2 bolt throwers for every 1 Jezzail. And obviously, once you have 4 Jezzails, that's just not going to happen. The Gyrocopter, again, proves to be good in this matchup. Now, we've seen in one of Shetland Apache's build where he had 4 Gyrocopters and 2 Gyro Bombers to really get the maximum amount of mobile DPS, or damage per second, onto Doomflayers and Warplock Jezzails and stuff like that. But I think a 1 Gyrocopter is so strong, and eumaies has really convinced me that that's the right way to go in a lot of builds, and I'm putting at least a 1-off of the Gyrocopters in several builds now. And you can see the work that Gyrocopter did at the end of the fight. Really strong. It's just continuous and useful. Now, one of the Gyrocopters got taken out by the Jezzails. It is what it is. The other one, though, continued to do work, particularly at the very end of the game, where it was able to just start routing off units, which would have been able to come back and to create sort of a secondary attack against the beat-up Dowie troops. So I think this Gyrocopter was very strong in this matchup, and this organ gun was a pretty nice pick. So this is a developing build, obviously, but did really well. 62 kills with the Rune Lord is really high. Obviously slaves and stuff, but 21 and 87 with the Dwarf Warriors, 79 with the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass, and Warriors of Dragonfire Pass did very well. And anti-infantry against this kind of trash, very good pick. I actually really like that Warriors of Dragonfire Pass pick too, personally. I think that's really fantastic. Now, these 3 Longbeards with great weapons, the beauty is they do have charge defense against large. They are essentially an anti-large armor piercing unit. They don't do well in frontline engagements against infantry, but they do good against, these Doomflayers, which we have tested. 1 Longbeard can take 1 Doomflayer in a one-on-one fight, which we've shown in our testing. Dragonback Slayers are always good in every matchup, almost. Norgerling's Ironbreaker is an interesting pick. This was the desire to hold that front line no matter what, and they did a fantastic job, really, to hold the front line so the artillery could operate. Finally, artillery, bolt throwers are really solid. I know a lot of you love bolt throwers for their capabilities versus price. And cannons, cannons are my favorite. I love cannons. I've always loved cannons. I love the sound they make. I love the things that they kill. They're all really satisfying. And the organ guns, though, this is probably this is my favorite use of organ guns ever. It is so correct, because one of the problems with organ guns having that 300 range is typically it can be counter batteried by other artillery. But when are the Skaven going to be bringing artillery? Maybe they'll bring 1 piece or 2, but these Jezzails and Doomflayers are so good. Like, why would you not bring them against the Dowie? You're not going to see 4. It's going to be rare that you're going to see 4 warp lightning cannons that would really make a mincemeat of an organ gun. Maybe you see 1 or 2 pieces, but not like you used to find sometimes. So the organ gun's really strong. Now, they countered the organ gun. He spent a lot of resources trying to get to that organ gun with his Warplock Jezzails and the Natty Bubo sharpshooters, and he was pretty successful in doing that. The cannon, loved it, 19 kills, but a very strong pick. Now, for eumaies abuse build, of course, Ikit Claw, 156 kills on a Doomflayer. Like, he could be mounted up on a freaking Doom Wheel, which is even worse. Warlock Engineer, 41. Skaven Slaves, 0-6. Skaven Slaves are very efficient no matter what they do. The Spears, 16, 7 and 1. We've got 2 Clan Rats, 18 and 32. Like, that for 300 gold, or 350 gold, I guess. That's outstanding. 3 for the Skaven Slave Slingers. And you're going to see these are really slingers and stuff like this are meant for Slayers. And then the 4 Warplock Jezzails, including the Natty Bubo sharpshooters with a regiment around 23, 17, 30, and 44. They did a lot of counter battery though, so those numbers are not quite their performance. Their performance is better than that. The Rat Ogres 49 and 29, 13 for the Doom Players, and 21 for the Dwarf Thing Menace. So I thank you, Amu, for sending that, and thank you, eumaies, for being part of that test. And thank you for sending it to me directly so I could get this out as quick as I could for other dwarf players to see, because the builds right now versus the Skaven are developing, and they're looking for really the right way to build against the Skaven, so you're not always caught with your pants down. Like if the Skaven player builds one way, multiple ways you can have some chances to defend against that. I think some pieces of this army which were pretty spectacular. I mean, I love the organ gun, and I love the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass, and the gyrocopter. I think the gyrocopter is shown to be strong, and every time it's coming up against the Skaven and whatnot, and the rest of the build was very solid too. This fight can be won. That's the message, that there is hope in this battle. It is not hopeless like some people may believe. I mean, and like if you saw my game against Dr. Krumpenstein, he wrecked me with the Skaven, and he like it was a demolition. It was like watching a car go through a crusher. It was painful to watch. It was painful to play. But obviously you put games out there like so that you can see them, and then you can see the development from where it was to how builds develop to where they are going to be, and you have that history, and you can see why units ended up getting into that lineup. And I think units like the Warriors of Dragonfire Pass are an excellent example, and the organ gun are new units in this matchup that are that could be maybe not turning the tide to make it back to an advantage for the Dowie, but stemming the flow of blood, and that is not nothing. So anyways, I'd love to hear from you. I love comments. It's my favorite part of doing this. I always look forward to reading them, and I appreciate every single one, even if you're just dropping in to say hello. So I look forward to what you have to say. I hope you found it interesting, and I will see you soon.